This video is all about my annual trip to the best crag in the world, the new River Gorge. Ah! Sorry, not sorry. I don't make the facts. That was so fun. Every year I trek to West Virginia to climb on the bulletproof Nuttall sandstone that the new has to offer. And this year I had 3 very specific objectives for my trip. 1, to send Green Envy, a 12C that I had some serious unfinished business with.
I was so close.
2, to send Bullet the New Sky, a 12B that kinda got away. And 3, to try this 13A slab called the Ruchert motion that I have been dying to get on for years. Yes, I like slab climbing, if you didn't know that. Slab! And a little bit of backstory, just in case you're new here. My 2024 sports season has kind of been foiled by some ridiculous injuries, like breaking my toe running inside my apartment and messing up my finger falling in a river. So this trip was my chance at a comeback for the season, as well as redemption on 2 routes that I had left unfinished. I had a lot of fire leading up to the trip. Let's just say that. And it was incredible.
Condies.
How exactly? You're definitely gonna have to watch to find that out. And if you like this video, hit subscribe so that you'll see the next one. Cause heads up, it was too much to cover in just one video because it was legitimately sick. On the way. I gotta say, living on the West Coast and in Vegas in particular, you get pretty spoiled with not really having to travel very far to go on some super sick climbing trips. Like, the one annual trip that I actually have to go on a plane for feels like such a journey. Yes, I know I'm very spoiled. This jacket is definitely, Vegas appropriate. I'm hot. Obviously had to go the dirtbag route of wearing my jacket instead of sacrificing the bag space for it. They're in the absolute last row.
12 seconds later.
I definitely set us in the wrong seats. We were over there. But actually we're on this side. But still, it'd be very, very bad. Successfully in the correct seats, we took off. Here you can see the strip, which is kind of cool, and the sphere, which just looks like a big black blob in the daylight. Bye, Vegas! And you best believe that if I have any spare time, I'm gonna spend it editing one of these videos. First flight was a little delayed, so now we are in a hurry to make it to this E-gate, which is allegedly 14, 13, now 12 minutes. Definitely it's taking longer than the signs say, not shorter. With no small amount of stress and some very fast walking, we did make the second flight, thank God. So beautiful, the sky. And landed safely in, you guessed it, West Virginia.
Should we walk in again?
These are our friends and New River Gorge locals, Seb and Cesno. No. Got all of this as carry-on. It's like a giant climbing pack. And this. Ha ha ha. We now have a designated New River Gorge rope and a cat. And a friend.
Hey.
Latte. We got a cat in the top.
West Virginia.
Day 1 was, as you'd expect, a kind of get used to the style again sort of day. I actually have a tradition of falling off 10C on day 1 of every single trip that I've ever been on to the New River Gorge. However, on this day I managed to only fall off 511 and 512. So, progress? This is a 12A called Gato, and it definitely kicked my butt. Or at least my day 1 jet-lagged butt. That's probably where you want to sit from. This first day made it abundantly clear that I was pretty out of shape at reading routes, which makes sense. I've been out for 10 weeks this season, and when I was climbing, I was projecting hard slab. I think that's the bait. Which doesn't exactly lend itself to figuring out hard sequences on the fly, especially not powerful ones like this.
Take.
So that's a check on the New River Gorge customary day one shutdown. Good thing I had 2 weeks on this trip.
Go right here.
Stink rises.
But you
Some?
smell it.
But only vaguely. Smell his other armpit. It's not strong.
Oh yeah, it's really nothing. I think it was something else because it smelled like a shisha place.
That might make it unusual.
Oh no.
Got the bridge. Day 2 was a double crag day in which I got to choose the first crag and the boys got to choose the second. Oh, beautiful New River slab. So of course I picked a crag that had a super classic slab. I believe the guidebook describes it as a test piece in its style, and it was sick. I only had time to go up it once that day before we had to leave, but more coming later. Then at the second crag, after Ryman and Seb had both gotten on the things that they wanted to try,
What you doing? Not zombies.
I got on this 11D called Magnitude. The crux is meant to be kind of savage for the grade, and as you can see in the next clip, it got darker and darker and darker while I rested at the rest before the crux. And I couldn't figure it out on the go, so I figured out the move, and then stick clipped through the slabby run out to the chains because it was pitch black at this point. So I only did 2 pitches this day, but I was pretty stoked to come back and try and get a send on both of them. Safe to say it was a good day all round.
Cheers! Great success.
Okay.
Boop. Boop. Been at the New for 3 days. Today's rest day, so I've climbed for 2. And wow, my work capacity is subpar, at least compared to what it usually is, which I can attribute to being out for a total of 10 weeks with the 2 injuries, and then obviously having some weeks of kind of getting back into it. So yeah, that kind of sucks, but I'm hoping that I will be able to get enough capacity back on this trip to do something by the end. I climbed 4 pitches in the last 2 days and I'm just like wrecked. Like, so wrecked. I guess I don't have the same like reservoir of fitness having had 2 injuries back to back versus when you just have 1. I don't know, it feels really quite different anyway, but don't feel injured, so that's good at least. And the New is just sick and so awesome. Hoping to feel a bit better tomorrow.
Come here, Bubba.
By the 3rd climbing day, it was time. Time to get back on the proj. Let me explain. I come to the New River Gorge in fall every year. I think this is my 5th trip. And 2 years ago, in 2022, I was in search of my first 12C. After shopping around different climbs, I settled on this. It's a super sick route called Green Envy, and I invested over half of my 3-week trip 2 years ago into this route, and I didn't send. So 2023 came around, and by then I had sent 12C. So I was super hopeful that on my annual trip to the New, I would come back and scoop the route. But the world had other plans. I managed to hurt my finger just a few weeks before the trip, so I couldn't even try the climb, let alone send it. Which means that this climb and I have some serious unfinished business. As such, it was the main objective of this year's trip. But as you know by now, I wasn't feeling super great or in shape after my season of injuries, but I really wanted to send the thing, obviously. So here's my first session on it. You'll have to keep watching to see what happens. Back at the rig 2 years later, and I have, focus, beta notes from 2022 and also footage. So you look at me climb that thing. It's kind of sick actually. This is definitely the longest it has been since I worked on a route and then actually got back on it. So having
video and notes, I'm hoping is gonna make it go a bit faster.
You know how I just said I wasn't feeling great or in shape after my season of injuries? Yeah, the crux still felt really hard. Look at me, I'm a fish out of water. And this is with my old beta. That was a pretty pathetic attempt. Come on. Okay, so that is how the crux is supposed to look. But that was in complete isolation. I had a lot of work to do on that, but I moved on. And fortunately for me, the final and red point crux came together pretty quickly. I did it second go. Now, the first crux is right off the deck. It didn't feel too bad at all on my warm-up go, remembering the moves, so here I am trying to link it together for the first time. This is the second time I've tied into the route this season.
Yeah.
Nice. Come on.
That hold is the end of the first crux. So it was looking pretty good on cruxes 1 and 3. Crux 2 though, by far the hardest one, maybe not so much. I had climbed through the first crux though, and I thought, hey, let's just try and climb into the second and give it a go. You never know what could happen, right?
I'm tired.
Yeah, that's what happened.
This is so crazy. Got it.
Easy Wizzy.
So, shirts off for power, of course.
You can take maybe.
And now, with the crux stick clipped, I could pull on in any of the positions and try and start working it into something that felt feasible.
It's so hard to climb into. Okay, on me. Okay, that was better. That was definitely better.
What'd you do different?
I normally go like here and I go right hand here
Yeah.
on like the good jug. And this time, instead, I put my left hand on the good jug.
Then I could get my feet or my left foot in position from here before I went to this hand. So I went to this hand last before I went, instead of like 4 foot moves before.
So I think good work. That felt pretty close.
So yeah, I figured out some different beta from 2 years ago and it felt like progress. Not a bad first session. And this I like to call work from crag. This part, just kinda dumb. After resting and working, I got on my final objective for the day. Were there probably too many objectives in this day? Yes. Yes, there were. But you gotta make hay while the sun shines. Or you gotta climb when you're at the new River Gorge. This is the Ruchert Motion, a 13A slab climb that I've had my eye on for some time. Getting on this thing and just trying it out to get a sense of what the climb was about was also on my list for the trip. So you could say that it was a productive day, and this climb was so sick. It was far, far too warm for it. You basically have to death crimp micro edges, and without temps, as you can probably tell from my attire, it would be pretty hard and cost a lot of skin. But I tried it, it didn't feel too bad, and I am very psyched to get back on it next time I'm at the new.
No, I think she's on the mid foot. And then you just go boop. And then first through to the foot drag.
That is from whence we came. Down here. And now we're going to go all the way down there.
On the fourth climbing day, it was time for some more unfinished business. You know how I mentioned coming here last year with a finger injury? Well, even with that injury, I got pretty close on this 12B called Bullet the New Sky. In fact, I fell on the very last hard move. Should I have been trying it at all with an injured finger? Probably not. But hey, that was last year, so yeah. Obviously, I wanted to come back and send it. That's what we were on the way to via the ladders. I warmed up bolt to bolt on the route, kind of trying to remember what to do, with the help, yet again, of my old video beta. Seriously, having that is a huge help. After the warm-up go, I gave it a rip. Here's what happened. So the start is pretty chill, it's kind of like 5-10 until you get to a stance just below the first bolt. It's definitely cool and interesting new river climbing though. And then from the stance there is kind of a tricky section getting up and left and over this kind of dihedral roofy thing. I on-sighted this section on my first time on the route, but since then I'm pretty sure I fell there twice. It's a bit tricky.
Come on.
Successfully through the first kinda hard part, it was easier climbing between here and the very good rest before the crux.
Okay, cool.
Okay, I'ma go.
Okay, I'm with you.
And here the crux starts. It's about 2.5 bolts of climbing from a proper no hands rest to a pretty good rest. It's super sequential, and if you mess up the sequence, you're kinda screwed. And it's also a bit of like finger power endurance. You have to crank on some crimps for real. Anyway, I'll let you watch what happens.
Come on. Yeah, come on, come on. Come on. Come on. One more move.
Okay, I can't believe I caught that. Because it was only my second go up this thing, I definitely didn't have like the body position or the movement totally figured out.
Yeah.
I guess I just actually had enough power to override it. Definitely a novelty for me. This rest is pretty bad and debatable if it's even worth taking, so I shook a couple times and pressed on. Here we have the last hard move, i.e. the move I fell on last season. And yeah, I stuck it and it was actually totally fine. Last season I had to do that move dynamically, and this season I could just somehow stand up and grab the hold. Not complaining.
Okay, never been here before.
Yeah.
So yeah, I sent, which felt pretty good 4 days in, having sent basically nothing up until this point.
This is the first thing I've sent on this trip.
Blue points, mother.
So, was this the beginning of a sending spree, or was it just a little send treat amongst a lot of hard work? You'll have to wait until the next video to find out. See, the next climbing day, we went back to Team Machine, that 12A slab, and to Magnitude, the 11D with the crux at the top. And, of course, I went back to Green Envy, more than once. So if you want to see what happened on the rest of the trip, and you want to see me try really freaking hard, and or see me get really freaking scared, hit subscribe.
I'm really scared right now.
And I'll see you in the next video. And thanks for watching. Until then.